Ambassador Jake Morrison sat in his chair within the massive council chambers of Harmony Prime and watched the alien delegates argue about humanity's latest request for justice. The space station stretched for miles in every direction and served as the heart of galactic civilization for over 300 years. 50 species called this place their diplomatic home, and Jake had represented humanity here for the past 12 years. The Zephyrian delegate stood at the central podium with his blue-scaled skin gleaming under the chamber lights. His voice carried across the room as he denied all accusations against his empire. Jake felt his jaw tighten as the alien spoke lies with complete confidence. 3 human colonies lay in ruins because of Zephyrian attacks, and this creature acted as if nothing had happened. Captain Lisa Hayes sat in the witness section wearing her merchant marine uniform. Her ship Freedom's Call had barely escaped the attack on New Boston Colony. She had watched Zephyrian warships destroy civilian transports and orbital stations without any warning or declaration of war. Her crew of 23 people had died trying to evacuate families from the planet's surface. The Altarian Chancellor, Vexthol, called for order in his mechanical voice. His species looked like walking crystals and spoke through sound vibrations. He had led the council for 30 years, and Jake knew the alien disliked humans. The Altarians believed emotions made people weak, and they saw humanity as too unstable for important decisions. Jake stood and walked to the speaking platform when his turn came. He had prepared his words carefully, but anger burned in his chest. The holographic displays around the chamber showed images of destroyed human settlements. Burned buildings and empty streets filled the screens. Children's toys lay scattered among the wreckage. "Honored delegates," Jake began, "the evidence speaks clearly. Zephyrian forces attacked 3 human colonies without provocation. They destroyed civilian ships trying to evacuate women and children. Captain Hayes witnessed these war crimes personally." The Vorthan military representative slammed his armored fist on his desk. His species loved war and conquest above all else. Humans always cry about casualties. "This is space, Ambassador. The strong survive and the weak perish." Jake continued despite the interruption. "We ask for justice according to galactic law. The Zephyrian Empire must pay reparations to the families of victims. They must withdraw from human space immediately. They must face trial for war crimes." Murmurs filled the chamber as delegates discussed the request. Jake had heard these same whispers for 50 years. Humanity contributed more to galactic defense than any 3 other species combined. Human engineers built the fastest ships and strongest weapons. Human doctors created medical treatments that saved millions of alien lives. Human diplomats solved conflicts that had raged for centuries, yet the Council treated humanity like junior members who should be grateful for any attention. Other species received immediate support when threatened. The Crystalline Collective got full military backing when pirates raided their territory. The Tolarian Republic received economic aid. After natural disasters destroyed their worlds, the Zephyrian delegate returned to the podium with a smile on his scaled face. The human colonies were built in disputed space. Our maps clearly show these systems belong to the Zephyrian Empire. We were reclaiming our rightful territory. Jake wanted to shout, but kept his voice steady. Those colonies existed for over 40 years. The Council recognized human claims to those systems in official treaties. The Zephyrians signed those same treaties. "Treaties can be challenged," the alien replied. "Humans should have asked permission before settling in our space." The chamber erupted in discussion as delegates took sides. Jake noticed the pattern immediately. Species that needed Zephyrian minerals for their industries supported the Empire. The Zephyrians controlled rare element mining in 12 systems, and other aliens feared losing access to those resources. Chancellor Vexthol called for a vote after 2 hours of debate. Jake watched the results appear on his personal display. 42 species voted to impose light economic sanctions on the Zephyrian Empire. The sanctions would last 6 months and ban luxury goods trade only. 8 species voted for full punishment. As humanity requested, Jake stared at the numbers in disbelief. 3 colonies destroyed, thousands of humans killed. Families torn apart and homes burned. The galaxy's response was to stop selling entertainment systems to the Zephyrians for half a year. Captain Hayes left the witness section with tears in her eyes. She had lost her entire crew and watched children die in the attacks. The council had just told her their lives meant nothing compared to mineral profits. Jake returned to his seat and activated his personal communicator. Admiral Kate Collins appeared on the screen from her flagship orbiting the station. She commanded the human defense fleet assigned to council protection duties. Her ships had kept the peace in this sector for 20 years. "How did the vote go?" she asked. 6-month luxury trade ban, Jake replied, "that's all." Admiral Collins closed her eyes for a moment. "My grandmother lived on New Boston. She was visiting her sister when the attack came." Jake felt the weight of failure crushing down on him. He had believed in the galactic community. He had thought 50 years of friendship and cooperation meant something. He had been wrong. The session continued with routine business, but Jake heard none of it. His mind raced through decades of similar betrayals. Human requests ignored. Human sacrifices forgotten. Human contributions taken for granted. The pattern was always the same. Humanity gave everything and received nothing in return. Admiral Collins sent another message an hour later. "Earth Command wants to know our next move. The families are demanding action." Jake looked around the chamber at the alien delegates. They had already moved on to discussing trade disputes and territorial boundaries. The human tragedy was forgotten history to them. He made his decision. The emergency session alarm sounded through the chamber as Jake requested immediate speaking time. Chancellor Vexthal granted the request with obvious annoyance. Jake walked to the central podium for the last time. "Honored delegates," he began, "humanity has served this council faithfully for 50 years. We have bled for your causes and died for your freedoms. We have shared our technology and opened our worlds to your people. We believed in the dream of galactic unity." The chamber fell silent as Jake's voice grew stronger. "Today you have shown us the true value of that dream. Human lives matter so little that mass murder earns a slap on the wrist. Human suffering means so little that you worry more about mineral prices than justice." Jake paused and looked directly at Chancellor Vexthal. "Humanity hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council effective immediately. We renounce all treaties and agreements. We recall all human personnel from Council territories. We end all cooperation and support." The chamber erupted in shocked voices as Jake continued. "You will have 60 standard hours to remove all non-human personnel from human space. Any alien vessels found in our territory after that deadline will be treated as hostile." Jake left the podium and walked toward the exit as delegates shouted. Questions and demands. Admiral Collins was already moving her ships into departure formation. The human experiment in galactic cooperation was over. The galaxy would learn what they had lost soon enough. Dr. Ryan Baker stood on the observation deck of the transport ship, New Horizon, and watched the last human families leave Centauri Station. The massive space station had been home to 50,000 humans who worked alongside alien species in mining operations. Now, empty cargo ships carried their belongings back to human space while the aliens watched in stunned silence. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Morrison delivered humanity's withdrawal speech to the Galactic Council. The galaxy had expected humans to change their minds within a few weeks. No species had ever left the Council voluntarily. The political and economic benefits were too valuable to abandon, but humanity meant every word. Ryan coordinated the largest population movement in galactic history. The Colonial Development Initiative under his leadership evacuated 2 million humans from mixed-species worlds. They came from research stations, trading posts, diplomatic missions, and joint colonies scattered across 40 star systems. Every human citizen answered the call to return home. The process was not simple. Many humans had married aliens and built families on distant worlds. Some had been born on alien planets and never seen Earth. Children cried as they left the only homes they had ever known. Adults abandoned successful businesses and careers they had spent decades building, but they came anyway. Captain Susan Wright commanded the evacuation fleet from her flagship Destiny. Her ships moved constantly between human and alien space, carrying people and equipment in an endless stream. The aliens made the process difficult by demanding paperwork and charging exit fees, but they could not stop the exodus. Meanwhile, Admiral Kate Collins completed the withdrawal of human military forces from Council territories. Her warships had protected galactic trade routes for decades. Human patrol fleets kept pirates away from merchant vessels. Human peacekeeping forces stopped conflicts before they became wars. Human intelligence networks tracked criminal organizations across multiple star systems. All of that ended when the last human warship crossed into human space. The galactic community celebrated it first. Chancellor Vexthal held a special council session to discuss the benefits of humanity's departure. The Altarians claimed humans had been holding back galactic progress with their emotional decision-making. The Vorthans said human peacekeeping made other species weak and dependent. The council redistributed human assets among the remaining members. The profitable trade routes that human ships once protected went to the highest bidders. The advanced research facilities that humans built became alien property. The defensive stations that guarded council space were turned over to various species' military forces. Everyone thought they had one. Commander Alex Turner supervised the construction of massive defensive installations around key human worlds. Earth's orbital shipyards worked around the clock building new warships and weapon platforms. The Luna defense grid expanded to cover the entire solar system. Similar projects began on every major human world. Humanity was building fortress walls around their space. The first signs of trouble appeared within 2 weeks of the human withdrawal. The Chronos Syndicate, a criminal organization that specialized in piracy and slave trading, attacked a Talarian merchant convoy near the Vega system. Previously, human patrol ships would have responded within hours. Now the closest non-human security force was 3 days away. The pirates captured the entire convoy and sold the crew into slavery. Similar attacks happened across former human patrol zones. Criminal organizations that had been quiet for years suddenly became active. The Shadowblade pirates raided mining operations in the Proxima sector. The Red Nebula cartel attacked passenger ships carrying alien families. The Void Reapers began systematic raids on poorly defended colonies. The non-human species tried to fill the security gap with their own forces. The Crystalline Collective sent crystal ships to patrol trade routes, but their technology was designed for defense, not pursuit. The crystal vessels were too slow to catch pirates and too fragile for extended combat. The Vorthan Empire offered military protection services for payment. Their warships were fast and deadly, but they cared nothing for civilian casualties. Vorthan commanders often destroyed entire pirate bases along with any innocent people who happened to be nearby. Fear of Vorthan methods sometimes caused more problems than the pirates themselves. Trade disputes that humans once mediated quickly escalated without diplomatic intervention. The Zephyrian Empire and the Helix Federation went to war over mining rights in the Outer Rim. Both sides had taken their disagreement to human mediators for 15 years. Human diplomats had always found peaceful solutions. Now there were no human diplomats to call. The war lasted 3 months and killed millions of people before exhaustion forced both sides to accept an unsatisfactory ceasefire. The Helix Federation lost half their territory. The Zephyrian Empire gained new mining worlds but spent so much money on the war that their economy nearly collapsed. Dr. Nicole Green led humanity's advanced research projects from the hidden laboratories on New Geneva. The planet was completely shielded by revolutionary defensive technology that made it invisible to alien sensors. Humanity had shared most of their scientific discoveries with the galactic community for decades. Medical treatments, faster than light communication, energy weapons, and artificial intelligence had all been human gifts to other species. That sharing ended with the Council. Withdrawal. Human scientists focused on developing technologies that would give them overwhelming advantages. They created artificial intelligence systems that could predict enemy tactics before battles began. They built faster-than-light communication networks that connected every human world instantly. They designed new weapons that could disable entire fleets without destroying them. Most importantly, they kept everything secret. Ambassador Morrison, now serving as Earth's foreign minister, received thousands of messages from former alien allies. The Talarian Republic begged for renewed cooperation agreements. Their shipping industry was collapsing under constant pirate attacks. The Helix Federation offered massive payments for human peacekeeping services. Even some Altarian trade houses sent private requests for human protection. Morrison deleted every message without reading them completely. President Maria Santos addressed the human population from Earth's capital 6 months after the withdrawal. The ceremony was broadcast to every human world and ship. She stood before the rebuilt United Nations building where humanity had first dreamed of galactic cooperation. We offered friendship, she said simply. We offered partnership. We offered our lives and our children's futures. The galaxy chose profit over justice and convenience over loyalty. She paused and looked directly into the cameras. Humanity will survive without them. We will grow stronger without their limitations. We will build our own destiny among the stars. The crowd of 50,000 people cheered, but Santos felt no joy. She remembered when human children played with alien youngsters in the parks of New York. She remembered when human and alien scientists worked together to cure diseases. She remembered when the dream of galactic unity seemed possible. Now humanity stood alone and the galaxy was learning what they had lost. General Chris Hawkins stood in Earth's Deep Space Command Center and watched the galaxy tear itself apart on the massive display screens. 2 years had passed since humanity abandoned the Galactic Council and the situation grew worse every day. The Hegemony War had begun 3 months ago when Vorthan Empire forces invaded Talarian Republic space without warning or justification. The Vorthans claimed they needed the Talarian mining worlds to fuel their expanding military. Warlord Kavik led the invasion personally with 500 warships and 2 million soldiers. The Talarians had only managed to evacuate half their population before Vorthan forces arrived. Entire cities burned as the invaders swept across planet after planet. In the old days, human peacekeepers would have intervened within hours. Human diplomats would have negotiated ceasefires and protected civilian populations. Human warships would have enforced buffer zones between the opposing forces. The war would have ended before it truly began. Now there were no human peacekeepers to call. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez served as Earth's external intelligence coordinator, and her reports painted a grim picture of galactic collapse. She had spent 15 years building relationships with alien intelligence services. Those contacts now sent desperate messages describing the chaos consuming their worlds. The Crystalline Collective tried to replace human peacekeeping forces with their own crystal ships. Their technology was advanced but completely unsuited for the task. Crystal vessels moved slowly and required perfect formation flying to be effective. Pirates and raiders simply scattered when crystal fleets appeared, then regrouped after the aliens moved on. The crystals also had no understanding of biological species psychology. They tried to negotiate with Vorthan warlords using mathematical formulas and logical arguments. The Vorthans responded by capturing crystal ships and selling their crews as exotic slaves to private collectors. President Maria Santos received a personal message from Chancellor Vexthal. 3 weeks into the Hegemony War, the Altarian leader's crystal body showed stress fractures that indicated extreme emotional distress. His mechanical voice carried undertones of desperation that Santos had never heard before. President Santos, he said through the encrypted channel, the Altarian Federation formally requests human assistance in containing the Vorthan expansion. We are prepared to offer significant compensation for peacekeeping services. Santos deleted the message without responding. The Talarian Republic fought bravely, but they were outnumbered 10-1. Their small fleet of defensive ships was destroyed. In the first week of fighting, their planetary defense systems, built with human assistance decades earlier, held out for another month before being overwhelmed. Captain Diana Foster commanded the long-range scout ship Endeavour and conducted covert missions to evacuate human civilians still trapped in war zones. Her orders were clear: rescue humans only and avoid any military action that might benefit alien forces. She watched Talarian refugee ships being hunted by Vorthan raiders and was forbidden from intervening, the moral weight of following orders. While watching innocent people die took its toll on her crew. Several officers requested transfers to other duties. Diana herself struggled with the decision to obey her government rather than her conscience. The Zephyrian Empire saw the galactic chaos as an opportunity to expand their own territory. They formed an alliance with several criminal syndicates and began systematic raids on civilian populations. The Blue Scale Pirates and the Void Reapers joined Zephyrian forces in attacking poorly defended worlds. Unlike the Vorthans who wanted territory and resources, the Zephyrians seemed motivated by pure cruelty. They destroyed entire cities just to send messages to their enemies. They took millions of prisoners and sold them into the worst forms of slavery imaginable. They poisoned water supplies on worlds they could not hold just to cause suffering. Commander Betty Lee ran Earth's reconnaissance network from the hidden base on New Geneva. Her intelligence operatives watched the galaxy burn from concealed observation posts. The reports they sent back grew more horrific each week. The Helix Federation collapsed completely when Zephyrian raiders destroyed their capital world. 20 billion people died in the orbital bombardment. The surviving Federation worlds surrendered immediately and accepted Zephyrian occupation rather than face similar destruction. The Galactic Council tried to organize a unified response to the crisis, but they lacked the military strength and coordination that human forces once provided. Each species looked after their own interests first. The Altarians protected their crystal worlds and ignored everyone else. The remaining free worlds formed hasty alliances that dissolved as soon as real fighting began, without human intelligence networks. The Council could not track enemy movements or predict attacks. Without human logistics support, their supply lines failed during extended campaigns. Without human diplomacy, they could not coordinate military strategies between different species with completely different fighting styles. Admiral Tony Walsh commanded Earth's expanded fleet from New Geneva's heavily fortified orbital stations. Human shipyards worked continuously to build new warships using advanced technology that other species could not match. The human fleet was now larger and more powerful than ever before in their history, but it remained completely within human space. The Talarian Republic's final message reached Earth on a badly damaged refugee ship that limped across the border into human territory. Prime Minister Jorik of the Talarians recorded his words while Vorthan forces surrounded his government bunker on the capital world. "We were friends," he said simply, blood running down his scaled face from shrapnel wounds. "We traded together. We explored space together. Our children played together on joint colonies. We thought friendship meant something." He paused as explosions echoed in the background. "We voted against you in the council because we feared the Zephyrians would cut off our mineral supplies. We put economics before loyalty. We chose profit over principle." The transmission cut off as Vorthan soldiers breached the bunker. Dr. Nicole Green reported to President Santos that human technology had advanced far beyond anything the galactic community possessed. Their isolation had freed them from sharing requirements and alien oversight. Human scientists could pursue research projects that other species considered too dangerous or unethical. They developed weapons that could disable entire star systems. They created defensive shields that existed partially outside normal space. They built ships that could travel faster than light without using the hyperspace lanes that limited other species. Most importantly, they remained completely hidden from alien observation. The galaxy that had once dismissed humanity as too emotional and unpredictable now faced extinction without human protection. The same species who voted to ignore human suffering now begged for human intervention. But humanity remembered every insult, every betrayal, and every moment when their cries for justice fell on deaf ears. The galaxy was learning that some mistakes could never be undone. Chancellor Vexthal stood in the ruins of his crystal palace on Altair Prime and felt something he had never experienced before: complete desperation. 5 years had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council and the galaxy lay in ruins. The Vorthan-Zephyrian alliance controlled 2/3 of known space and showed no signs of slowing their conquest. His own homeworld was under siege. Vorthan warships filled the sky above the crystal cities while Zephyrian raiders hunted civilians in the underground tunnels. The proud Altarian Federation that had led galactic civilization for centuries now existed only on this one world, and even that would fall within days. The other crystal beings in his government council had already accepted defeat. They spoke of surrender terms and negotiated slavery conditions. But Vexthal remembered the human ambassador's face when the council voted to ignore the destruction of human colonies. He remembered the quiet dignity in Jake Morrison's voice when he announced humanity's withdrawal. The Altarians had called humans too emotional. They had dismissed human concerns as unworthy of serious consideration. They had treated humanity like junior members who should be grateful for any attention at all. Now Vexthal, prepared to beg those same humans for salvation, Admiral Tony Walsh watched the intelligence reports flow across his screens in the command center of New Geneva. The hidden human fortress world remained completely invisible to alien sensors while the galaxy burned around them. His expanded fleet of advanced warships waited in secret bases throughout human space, ready for orders that never came. The numbers told a grim story. 43 species had belonged to the original Galactic Council. 18 were now completely extinct. 15 existed only as slave populations under Vorthan or Zephyrian control. 7 survived in scattered refugee fleets fleeing from system to system. Only 3 maintained any real independence, and even they were losing ground daily. Tony had served as humanity's military liaison to the Council for 10 years before the withdrawal. He knew many of the alien officers now fighting hopeless battles against overwhelming odds. Some had been friends. Others had been respected rivals. All of them were dying because their governments had chosen economics over justice when humanity needed support. Commander Betty Lee's reconnaissance network reported that the Alliance was preparing for something massive. Vorthan Industrial Worlds worked around the clock building the largest invasion fleet in galactic history. Zephyrian research stations developed new biological weapons designed to kill entire planetary populations. Intelligence suggested their target was the remaining free worlds in the core systems. The Alliance leaders had grown drunk on their success. Warlord Kavik of the Vorthans proclaimed himself Emperor of all inhabited space. High Admiral Zethkul of the Zephyrians declared that slavery was the natural state of all inferior species. They spoke of a 1,000-year reign of terror across the galaxy, but they had not forgotten about humanity. Alliance intelligence services spent enormous resources trying to locate human worlds and measure human military strength. Their spies found nothing. Human space appeared empty except for the old established colonies that everyone already knew about. Alliance scouts who ventured too close to human borders simply disappeared without trace or explanation. The mystery frustrated Alliance leadership and made them increasingly paranoid about human capabilities. President Maria Santos received Chancellor Vexthal's desperate message on a cold morning in Washington. The Altarian leader had traveled to the edge of human space in an unmarked civilian vessel. His crystal body showed stress fractures throughout, and his normally steady voice shook with exhaustion. President Santos, he began, I come not as Chancellor of the Altarian Federation, but as a person facing extinction. My people are dying. My worlds are burning. My civilization ends with me. He paused, and the stress fractures in his crystal form deepened. I was wrong. We were all wrong. We thought human emotion made you weak, but it made you strong. We thought human morality made you naive, but it made you wise. We thought we could survive without you, but we were fools. Vexthal's image flickered as his ship's communication system struggled with battle damage. I beg you to help the innocent people who had no voice in our government's decisions. The children who played with human youngsters on joint colonies. The scientists who worked beside human researchers to cure diseases, the ordinary citizens who called humans friends. The transmission ended with Vorthan ships attacking the Chancellor's vessel. Minister Jake Morrison sat across from President Santos in the Oval Office as they watched the message together. He looked older now, with gray hair and lines around his eyes from 5 years of carrying the weight of humanity's isolation. His years as ambassador to the Galactic Council felt like another lifetime. "What do you think?" Santos asked. "I think, they're getting exactly what they deserve," Jake replied without emotion. "They made their choice when they valued Zephyrian minerals over human lives. Now they want us to save them from the consequences." Santos nodded slowly. "But what about the innocent people? The ones who had no say in government decisions?" Jake stood and walked to the window overlooking the rebuilt capital. Earth had prospered during the isolation years. Human colonies expanded into previously unexplored regions of space. Human technology advanced beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human society grew stronger without the constant drain of supporting ungrateful allies. "There were innocent people in our colonies too," he said quietly. "Children and families who died because the Council chose profit over protection. Where was galactic concern for those innocent lives?" Dr. Nicole Green presented her latest research findings to the Earth Government Council that same week. Human science had achieved breakthroughs that seemed impossible by galactic standards. They had learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level. They had developed faster-than-light travel that didn't depend on hyperspace lanes. They had created artificial intelligence systems that could predict enemy actions with perfect accuracy. Most remarkably, they had built weapons that could reshape entire star systems. "We could end this war in hours," she reported to the assembled leadership. "Our technology is so far advanced that the Alliance couldn't even understand how we defeated them. We could restore peace to the galaxy tomorrow if we chose to act." President Santos looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. These were the people who had guided their species through the darkest period in human history. They had endured alien contempt, survived galactic abandonment, and built something stronger from the ashes of broken trust. "The question," Santos said slowly, "is whether we want to save them." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Humanity possessed the power to restore galactic civilization, but they also possessed the memory of how that civilization had treated them. They could choose mercy or justice, salvation or revenge. Foreign Minister Morrison spoke into the silence. "If we help them now, they'll be grateful until the crisis passes. Then they'll go back to treating us like junior partners who should be thankful for scraps from their table." Some lessons can only be learned through complete defeat. Santos made her decision. Prepare a response to Chancellor Vexthal. Offer humanitarian aid to any refugees who reach human space. Promise safe passage to any species seeking asylum. But make it clear that we will provide no military intervention. The Chancellor's ship was destroyed by Vorthan forces before he could receive humanity's reply. The last independent Altarian died believing his former human allies had abandoned him just as he had once abandoned them. The galaxy's final lesson in consequences was about to begin. Warlord Kavik stood on the bridge of his flagship Dominator and stared at the tactical display showing New Terra's position. 10 years had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Council, and the Vorthan Zephyrian Alliance now controlled 90% of the galaxy. Only scattered refugee fleets and a few hidden colonies remained free, but they posed no real threat to Alliance dominance. Humanity represented the final prize. The Alliance had spent 5 years trying to locate major human military installations. Without success. Human space appeared to contain only the old established colonies that everyone already knew about. Alliance intelligence estimated that humanity possessed perhaps 200 outdated warships and minimal defensive capabilities. Kavik disagreed with that assessment. No species could survive 10 years of galactic warfare without some military strength. But he also knew that human technology was decades behind Alliance standards. The humans had been isolated while the Alliance captured and studied the most Advanced weapon systems from 40 conquered civilizations. New. Terra seemed like the perfect target for testing human defenses. The agricultural world supported only 5 million colonists and lay at the edge of human space. Intelligence reports suggested minimal orbital defenses and no major military presence. A successful attack would demonstrate Alliance power while providing useful information about human capabilities. Admiral Jonathan Price commanded the human defense fleet from his flagship Retribution in orbit around New Terra. His ships remained hidden behind advanced stealth technology that made them invisible to Alliance sensors. The colonists below went about their daily lives unaware that the largest space battle in galactic history was about to begin above their heads. Jonathan had served in the old Galactic Council peacekeeping forces for 15 years before humanity's withdrawal. He remembered Warlord Kavik from joint military operations against pirate fleets. The Vorthan commander had been competent but unimaginative, relying on overwhelming force rather than tactical brilliance. That predictability would be Kavik's downfall. The Alliance invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the new Terra system with over 800 warships. Vorthan heavy cruisers led the formation while Zephyrian raiders spread out to prevent any escape attempts. It was the largest military force ever assembled for a single battle. Kavik broadcast his demands on all frequencies as the fleet approached the planet. Humans of New Terra, you will surrender immediately and submit to Alliance authority. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your world and the enslavement of all survivors. The human response came from an unexpected source. President Maria Santos appeared on the main communication channel, broadcasting from Earth itself. She looked older, but her voice carried absolute authority as she addressed the Alliance fleet. "Warlord Kavik," she said calmly, "you have made a fatal error in judgment. You assume humanity has remained weak during our years of isolation. You assume we have learned nothing from watching your brutality across the galaxy. You are wrong. On both counts," Kavik laughed as he cut the transmission. Human political leaders had always been full of empty threats and meaningless speeches. He ordered his fleet to proceed with the invasion. The first sign that something was wrong came when Alliance sensors detected massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system. Ships materialized from nowhere as human stealth technology. Deactivated. But these were not the primitive vessels that Alliance intelligence had predicted. The human warships looked like nothing any species had ever built. They moved without visible propulsion systems and turned at impossible angles without slowing down. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. While energy patterns danced across their surfaces, Admiral Price gave the order to engage. From his command chair, "All ships, you are authorized to demonstrate the consequences of attacking human civilians. Show them what we have learned during our isolation." The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. Human weapons fired beams of pure energy that passed through Alliance shields as if they did not exist. Vorthan heavy cruisers with armor plating thick enough to stop antimatter warheads simply vaporized when human beams touched them. Zephyrian raiders moving at maximum speed froze in space as human technology somehow locked them in temporal stasis fields. Alliance commanders screamed orders at crews who could not understand what was happening. To them, their sensors showed impossible readings. Their weapons struck targets that phased in and out of normal space. Their engines failed as human technology reached across the void to disable enemy systems without physical contact. Warlord Kavik watched. His flagship systems shut down one by one as a single human vessel approached. The ship was smaller than his own, but seemed to exist partially outside normal reality. Parts of it appeared transparent, while other sections looked solid enough to touch. Commander Stephen Hill opened a communication channel from the human vessel Phoenix. His voice was calm and professional as he addressed the Alliance fleet. "This is your only warning? You have 72 hours to withdraw from all conquered territories and release all enslaved populations. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your military forces." Kavik tried to respond with threats and demands, but his communication systems had been disabled. His weapons were offline. His engines would not start. 800 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy had been reduced to helpless scrap metal in less than 20 minutes. The human fleet departed as quickly as it had appeared, leaving the Alliance forces drifting in space. Rescue ships eventually arrived to tow the disabled vessels back to Alliance territory, but the psychological damage was complete. The mighty Alliance had been humiliated by technology they could not even begin to understand. The Alliance leadership met in emergency session on the Vorthan homeworld. High Admiral Zethkul of the Zephyrians demanded immediate retaliation against all human worlds. Warlord Kavik, still shaken by his defeat, argued for negotiation and compromise. Other Alliance commanders called for withdrawal from human space. Entirely. The debate raged for 3 days before they reached a consensus. The Alliance would demonstrate their power by attacking Earth itself. If they could destroy humanity's homeworld, the psychological victory would restore their reputation and eliminate the human threat permanently. It was the worst decision they could have made. General Patricia Morgan commanded Earth's defense network from the Luna Command Center. Human sensor arrays detected the massive Alliance fleet while it was still 3 star systems away. 2,000 warships approached Earth carrying enough firepower to crack planets. The Alliance had committed every available vessel to this final assault. They expected to face a desperate last stand by primitive human technology. Instead, they encountered defensive systems that operated on principles beyond their comprehension. Earth's protection grid existed partially outside normal spacetime, making conventional attacks completely useless. The Battle of Earth lasted exactly 43 seconds. Alliance warships simply ceased to exist as human weapons reached across dimensional barriers to unmake them at the molecular level. 2,000 vessels and 50 million Alliance personnel vanished without leaving any debris or energy signatures. The galaxy fell silent. President Santos addressed the surviving species from the rebuilt United Nations building. Behind her stood the flags of every human world, while empty spaces marked where alien banners once hung. Her words carried across space to reach every remaining free population and enslaved world. The galaxy chose strength over justice, she said simply. You chose profit over principle. You chose convenience over loyalty. Now you live with the consequences of those choices. She paused and looked directly into the cameras. Humanity will restore order to the stars, but under human authority. We tried partnership and you rejected us. We offered friendship and you betrayed us. Now there will be only human rule. The new galactic government began its work immediately. Human fleets appeared in every star system still under Alliance control. Enslaved populations were liberated and their oppressors faced human justice. The surviving species found themselves living under laws written by the same people they had once dismissed as too emotional for serious consideration. Ambassador Jake Morrison walked through the ruins of the old Galactic Council chambers on Harmony Prime. The station had been abandoned for years after Alliance forces destroyed most of its infrastructure. Broken glass and twisted metal filled the spaces where alien delegates once debated the future of civilization. He stood at the podium where he had delivered humanity's final speech to the Council 10 years earlier. The galaxy had taught humanity that strength was the only currency that mattered among the stars. Friendship could be betrayed, alliances could be broken, and trust could be abandoned for economic advantage, but power, true power, commanded respect. As Jake left the ruined chamber, human engineers began planning the station's reconstruction. It would serve as the seat of galactic government once again, but this time every important decision would be made by humans. The galaxy had rejected human partnership and human equality. Now they would experience human supremacy instead.